that you are with us on right from the beginning of this whole event, and it also tells how involved you are into the public health and the nutrition and for its various cause. It's really a great blessing to have you with us, sir, right from the beginning of this program. Wonderful to have you, sir, and welcome from on behalf of the complete team and all the chairperson, Dr. Jagmeet Madan. We really are really proud to have you with us right from beginning, and we really understand and appreciate your valuable time. Thank you, Ms. Neelam. And it's my pleasure and privilege to invite our beloved chairperson, IdeaCon 2020 and National President, Indian Dietetic Association, Dr. Jagmeet Madan. Dr. Jagmeet has as a wonderful nutritionist. She has an eminent personality, a gold medalist and a recipient of Young Scientist and the recipient of many prestigious awards as academician, researcher, and teacher. Young Scientist Award, Dr. Ranganathan Award, Best Teacher Awards are only the few to mention. She has contributed significantly towards various national and international research projects through USDA, Project Mark, Tanita HealthLink, to name a few. She is also on FSSAI scientific panel for labeling and claims. Again, another panel on nutrition and fortification. She is also a steering committee member, NetProfan FSSAI India. May I now invite Dr. Madan to share her opening remarks and welcome the august audience. Over to you, Dr. Madan.
A very good afternoon to everyone. Respected Dr. Srinath Reddy, Dr. Johanna Ralston, my fellow colleagues from the Special Interest Group, Public Health Nutrition, Dr. Nimali Singh, Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, Dr. Sushma, Dr. Geeta Dharmati, and so many of my close colleagues from the National Executive Committee who are with us today. And I know my other friends, dear colleagues from the present and the past NEC, the IDA Life members, so many faculty, academicians, students, not only from nutrition, and I think many other allied faculties who have gathered and joined us on this day, because Indian Dietetic Association took this plunge and step to reach out maximal people for academic knowledge dissemination through a series of SIG launches, special interest group launches, which got initiated on 21st November. And I'm so proud that we had some tremendous response right from the beginning. And today itself, I can see that there are so many delegates who have joined us. And saliently, there is no registration for any program. There's no registration fee for any program during this entire IdeaCon. And that goes to say that Indian Diabetic Association is here real time to connect with each and every stakeholder to disseminate the evidence-based scientific knowledge. So friends, it's a very proud moment today, this afternoon, that we are blessed with stalwarts, legendary figures in the field of public health nutrition to bless us, to be with us for this launch of the special interest group on public health nutrition. The Indian Diabetic Association, with its strength of 17,000 members across 25 chapters in India, has taken this step forward to initiate the special interest group in public health nutrition for a reason that today the members of Indian Diabetic Association can leverage their role beyond clinical settings and reach out to the innumerable people pan-India through the strength of 25 chapters and 17,000 live members. And to my mind, in this mandate, every nutritionist, every practicing dietitian, every student who's getting trained in the field of food, nutrition, and dietetics can contribute and come together to create a nutrition brigade. And this nutrition brigade will be a brigade of trained professional nutritionists, dietitians, who come together as a community for a cause, who extend their services, in their niche areas, in the smallest way possible. But let me tell you, these small dots, when put together, become a big whole. And from that backdrop emerged this need that we need to start the conversation about public health nutrition in this fraternity and create the special interest group, who can enroll members who have the will, who have the readiness, who have the mindset to contribute to a bigger cause, and I would put it to a bigger national cause today. This comes in very rightly in times of pandemic COVID-19, wherein the whole world has realized that today's mandate is right nutrition and right lifestyle. So I think as a fraternity, a decision today that we launch this special interest group under the guidance of our gurus, mentors, experts in public health nutrition, our colleagues who've done some excellent work in this field, take them as advisors, have our life members become a part of this group, have allied organizations, medical experts a part of this group, have government bodies like NetProfan, FSSAI also a part of this group, and also non-government organization like Food Future Foundation joining the mandate, academic institutions joining the mandate, and the administrative bodies of all the chapters which pan India through the Indian Diabetic Association also helping to achieve the goal which are supreme in the space of public health nutrition. I'm so happy that we are launching this program on such a special day, which is the Anti-Obesity Day. And the Anti-Obesity Day has a theme of overweight and obesity, the global pandemic. We are so blessed that we have Dr. Johanna Ralston, CEO, World Obesity Federation, with us It's 5 o'clock for her in US, but she has already joined us. That shows the commitment of such stalwarts, and she is going to deliver her talk on this theme. Just setting the context of the launch of this special interest group, we have to begin our conversation from the visionary initiative of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, that is Poshan Abhiyan, which was launched in the year 2018. And the clear mandate of this initiative has been Suposhit Bharat. And through this Suposhit Bharat, it leverages, its arms to undernutrition, overnutrition, and micronutrient malnutrition, which are the three kinds of malnutrition which are affecting India, or India is in the grip of these three kinds of malnutrition. And if you look at the recent report of the Poshan Abhiyan, it clearly indicates the progressive approach the government is taking to use technology to map the gravity of the problem, to map the delivery of the resources, to map the monitoring of the outcomes. It is extremely heartening that we are working in such a meticulous manner at the national level. So, how is it that IDA can contribute in this mandate? Friends, I'm extremely heartened to share with you that Indian Dietetic Association has already committed to the National Institute of Nutrition, ICMR, for a collaborative national project on mapping the nutrition and health status, a national level participatory real-time data generation program, wherein we are going to take the help of all our members pan-India in 25 chapters, and through our members, we'll reach all the academic institutions, their students, and give all those arms which this nation needs to collect this kind of data. Besides this, I think Indian Dietetic Association can significantly contribute in what we call as behavioral change. Friends, today there is no dearth of material to read. But in spite of having so many facts in front of us, in spite of knowing what is good and what is not good, why is it that we cannot stop our young children, our young adults, or people at large to not do things which are not good for them? Because I think somewhere what we are forgetting is that having information is one thing, using that information and hand-holding and bringing a behavior change is another aspect. So I think this is where, again, IDA can really leverage, and I'm very glad to say that we worked very closely with FSSAI in the Eat Right India initiative, and our own members have come out with innovative strategies of communication through different formats. And they have all been applauded and put up on the FSSAI website, on the IDA website. But I think it's time that we do some real-time dissemination of knowledge and also do some impact studies as to, if we are delivering messages, where were we when we began the process and where we are after a period of time, so that we see the impact of this knowledge dissemination. So these are some of the areas I think wherein we can definitely offer our services. But to be there, I think we need guidance, we need hand-holding, and that's where this special interest group, which will have our experts with us, our gurus, our mentors with us, our allied bodies, and people and different stakeholders with us. That's where, when we come together as a team, I think we can conceptualize things, we can plan the whole academic calendar for the year, and again, with a mandate, with a bigger cause in mind, that if we can make a difference, in people's life, especially in the well-being and health of this nation. So I think with these words, again, I thank Dr. Srinath Reddy, a visionary legend in public health nutrition, and President PHFI, sir. We were blessed in the IdeaCon 2019 that you gave Dr. Gopalan's oration, and I was so touched that just one phone call and you agreed, and I thank Shweta for always connecting us very quickly. So she's our hotline to reach Dr. Srinath Reddy, and she helps us facilitate what we would like. But sir, we are really honored that you are here. And I think Dr. Johanna, thank you so much for being with us. And we are looking forward to your address. Thank you very much. And I think with these words, I'll tell Sushma to continue with the proceedings. Yeah.
Many thanks, ma'am, for your wonderful insight into the way forward and how the IDA can play an instrumental role in the way forward as the special interest group on PHN, on public health and nutrition. I now request Dr. Nimali to share her mission as well as her vision on the public health nutrition. And it is a great privilege for me to give a brief introduction on Dr. Nimali. She is Dr. Nimali is the chairperson of SIG PHN Group, convener ID Rajasthan chapter, recipient of several awards like Sambhavna Society Achievers, Women of the Future, VIFRA Best Scientist Award. She is also the member of Joint Review Mission, Government of India under Ministry of Human Resource Development. Now I request Dr. Nimali to kindly share her views and mission on the vision of this public health nutrition special interest group. Over to you, Dr. Nimali.
Thank you so much, Sushma. It is indeed an honor for me to address this August gathering. Respectable Sir, Dr. Srinath Reddy, Dr. Johanna, our guest of honor, Dr. Jagmeet Madan, our National President. I'm indeed very honored, ma'am, that you have, and humbled also that you have chosen me to take the lead on this. I would now like to share my screen, if I may. Is my presentation visible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is one of the part of the 53rd annual conference, IdeaCon. This time this is going to be virtual, and it is international conference. Thanks to Jagmeet Madam for taking this forward internationally. And this is the launch of special interest group, and the theme is Anti-Obesity Day, Overweight and Obesity, the global pandemic. But I'm not going to talk about the Anti-Obesity Day. I'm going to talk about the objectives that we've decided. For the background, I would say that the specified set of 6 global nutrition targets for 2025 are that we achieve 40% reduction in the number of children under 5 who are stunted, 50% reduction in anemia in women, and 30% reduction in low birth weight, and ensure that there is no increase in childhood obesity. That is one of the part of this program. Then there has to be increased rate of exclusive breastfeeding and reduce and maintain childhood wasting to less than 5%. These are the global objectives. Now, India, we can see that India has missed opportunities and they have misplaced priorities because we have the poorest health card in the world. I'm sorry to say this, because we have the largest population by 2022. We are 94 out of 102 countries in the Global Hunger Index, and we are already the diabetes capital of the world. Being the most youthful country in the world, we are having the most depressed population also. So that is the background that has pushed us to see why do we need to have a public health nutrition group in IDA. So these are the current challenges in COVID, that there is food and nutrition insecurity, and there are we have to deal with the systems, nutrition and food systems in the across the country, and we have to have affordable and nutritious food for the population. National Nutrition Mission or Poshan Abhiyan is a flagship program of Government of India, as ma'am said. And we had a goal to end malnutrition by 2022, but we have got a setback, serious setback due to COVID. But the government is still committed to take this forward. So Lancet series on maternal and child nutrition 2013 has demonstrated that the reduction in maternal and childhood obesity or mortality can be resolved by doing some basic nutritional interventions. And these nutritional interventions are so simple to do that we can reduce maternal mortality by addressing iron deficiency anemia and maternal stunting by proper nutrition. We can reduce 1/5 of the neonatal mortality by preventing universal practice of, by promoting universal practice of early initiation of exclusive breastfeeding within the first 1 hour. And that can reduce to 22% of neonatal mortality, and which is seen in the West Africa and Southeast Asia. We are the country which have maximum number of IMR in the region. That is also one of the setbacks for the country. The targets of Poshan Abhiyan has been, we all know that we want to reduce stunting by 10% in 5 years, or we can say 2% per annum. We can prevent, if we can prevent and reduce underweight in children by 6% in 3 years, reduce prevalence of anemia among children by 3% per annum, and reduce prevalence of anemia among women and adolescent girls by 3% per annum, and reduce low birth weight by 2% per annum. What we really need to do is converge various departments that are, which is the need of the hour, because we are taking the programs separately and we are not working under one umbrella, which is the need that we need to converge all the government organizations which are working on nutrition and health. The key pointers of Poshan Abhiyan are the recommendation for accelerating current trends in addressing key under nutrition goals. The recommendations for strengthening key Poshan Abhiyan pillars are technology, convergence, as ma'am said, behavioral challenge, capacity building. And the recommendations are that strengthening the core delivery platforms, that is ICDS and NHM. The recommendations for addressing old and new challenges for transforming nutrition in India, and addressing complementary feeding, anemia, and micronutrient deficiencies, which has been covered by ma'am as well. What can IDA do, as ma'am was talking about? The vision is to nurture a cadre of professionals who aspire to ensure that in all possible circumstances, adequate nourishing food is available to and affordable by all. The mission is to create a multidisciplinary dialogue around PHN issues, and to build capacity of IDA members and affiliated professionals to provide creative evidence-based solutions for ending malnutrition in all its form, whether it is undernutrition or overnutrition. The aim is the IDA's SIG, that is Special Interest Group on Public Health Nutrition, is committed to contribute in making India nourished, nurtured, healthy and clean, as ma'am said, Suposhet Swasth and Swachh Bharat, using collective wisdom and evidence-based innovative solutions to end public health and nutrition woes in our country. The objectives are to collate evidence and produce interim reports on public health nutrition in our country, organize regular academic feasts in various forms like debates, webinars, talks, conferences, to keep the community engaged and apprised of latest developments in this field, to provide crisp, doable actions, pointers or recommendations to the government on their ongoing program and policies having a bearing of PHN, preparing white paper on evidence-based local interventions with ideas on scale-up and applicability across other regions, foster learning and engagement of younger colleagues by mentorship, mentorship opportunities, and create internship opportunities at IDEA chapter offices or their associated collaborating institutions. Provide expert support guidance for grant writing for external funding and preparing other research publications under IDEA ambit. So this is a poem that I'm very close to my heart since I've been working in the field on child health. So we are guilty of many errors and many faults, but our worst crime is abandoning the children, neglecting the foundation of life. Many of the things can wait, the child cannot. Right now is the time his bones are being formed, his blood is being made, and his senses are being developed. To him, we cannot answer tomorrow because his name is today. So with this, I would like to thank you for a better, that we have a better tomorrow for India and its people through our dietitians and nutritionists across the country. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sushma.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Nimali, on throwing light on the vision and the mission and the various objectives which we want to take forward on behalf of Special Interest Group, Indian Dietetic Association Special Interest Group on Public Health and Nutrition. So it's time for us to have the official launch, and now I request the dignitaries, respected Professor Srinath Reddy, our speakers for the day, Dr. Johanna, and all our team members, Chairperson Dr. Jigme, Chairperson Dr. Nimali Singh, Chairperson Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, to kindly join for this virtual launch of the Special Interest Group on Public Health, and and also I would like to invite Dr. Geeta for this to join on this special occasion of virtual launch. Can I have the virtual launch, the lighting the lamp, Ms. Neelam, please? Yeah. Wonderful to have you, Dr. Johanna.
Kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada shatru buddhi vinashaya dipajyotirnamostute dipajyotirnamostute shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada.
Thank you, Ms. Neelam. Many thanks, Dr. Reddy, Dr. Madan.
For that, we didn't have this for the group.
Launch also, Sushma?
Neelam, can we have that slide, please? The launch slide.
The launch slide.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think now we can clap.
Yeah, now it's time for.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah. Many thanks to all the dignitaries, and now we'd like to take forward from here on. It's a pride, really a pride as well as the proud moment for Team Special Interest Group on Public Health and Nutrition today to have none other than Dr. Srinath Reddy as the chief guest and the keynote speaker. It is our blessing as well as privilege to have him with us, and it's really an honor to introduce him to this august audience. Dr. Srinath Reddy, a Padma Bhushan awardee, President Public Health Foundation of India, founder of Public Health Foundation India, and thus steering this whole foundation since 2006. An eminent personality who headed the Department of Cardiology, AIIMS, New Delhi, recipient of prestigious awards and honor, a trained epidemiologist from McMaster University, Canada, a committed researcher at national and international level. His contributions in the field of both medicine and public health is commendable. We welcome you, sir, and invite you to deliver the keynote address today on the launch of Special Interest Group Public Health Nutrition on positioning public health nutrition in India's developmental agenda. May I invite you, sir, for your kind address.
Sir, you are on mute. You need to unmute.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this honor. And I'm grateful to all the distinguished leaders of nutrition and public health nutrition community in particular for having given me this opportunity to be part of this wonderful moment when the Special Interest Group on Public Health Nutrition is being launched today. I'm especially grateful to Dr. Madan, who has been extremely kind in describing me in several occasions as somebody who is a friend of the public health nutrition community. That I am, but perhaps more credit has been given to me than due. However, I've always been a believer that nutrition is absolutely fundamental to health, and health and nutrition together constitute the best summative indicator of success in sustainable development goals. Because every other area that is featuring in the sustainable development goals is very clearly influenced by health and nutrition, or is influenced in turn by the other goals. But I do not think, for example, that we can abolish poverty without paying attention to health and nutrition. We cannot enable children to access and benefit from education unless we pay attention to health and nutrition. And similarly, there are many other areas of economic productivity or even gender which actually interlink with health and nutrition. And environment is the other big area where health and nutrition invariably have a bidirectional linkage, both with food systems being responsible to some extent for environmental degradation and the way in which we are managing them, and also agriculture and food systems being in turn susceptible to damage by environmental degradation, all of which pose many challenges to global development and particularly to India's development. So positioning public health nutrition as a key component of India's developmental odyssey as we move along, I think is an absolutely timely and appropriate step. And I both congratulate and thank the Indian Dietetic Association for having taken this very innovative but essential measure of specifically designating a special interest group with wide participation. Clearly, when we are talking about public health in the context of Indian Dietetic Association, the question comes up is how a group of people who are mainly involved with clinical nutrition in trying to correct some of the nutritional imbalances that are associated with ill health, or try and even promote health through good nutrition in individuals, are actually relating to the broader arena of public health, which deals mainly with population as the unit. The difference between clinical medicine and clinical nutrition is that they deal with individuals as the units, whereas public health generally tends to deal with population as the unit. So public health both identifies and influences the determinants of health and nutrition at the population level to impact upon health and nutrition at the individual level, both by identifying the determinants and trying to change them, and also the risk factors which are a little more proximate to the actual clinical condition and try and correct them. And this it does through policies, through systems of organization, through programs of implementation, as well as engagement of multiple stakeholders, principally the communities. So all of these come into the ambit of public health. And this is of great importance because even though the beneficiaries of any public health intervention are faceless and nameless, and therefore the anonymity of prevention does not give the emotional or even sometimes the financial gratification of providing care directly to an individual. Nevertheless, it has a far more profound influence across the society and far more lasting impact as well. Therefore, it becomes absolutely essential that even people who are practicing clinical nutrition on a regular basis become quite conscious change agents of all the forces that impinge upon nutrition at the policy level, at the program level, at the system level, and at the community level. In fact, to simplify, we say that clinical medicine and clinical nutrition dispense their benefits at the retail level, whereas public health and public health nutrition provide their benefits at the wholesale level. We are influencing the entire population at that level, larger level. And that's why it's important that we tie up these together. Secondly, nutrition is very critical because it extends across the entire life course. There is, right from preconception to the very end of life, nutrition is absolutely pivotal. And whatever may be the siloed approach to individual diseases, whether of childhood or of adulthood, we recognize that nutrition is the common thread that is running through all of them. And therefore, throughout the life course, there is a great opportunity as well as a need for influencing the nutrition through public health interventions, which are absolutely the domain of public health nutrition. So I think this is something that we must really bring into the consciousness of all people in the nutrition community, because they are going to be the most profound change agents as far as India's development is going to be concerned. Particularly when we are really talking about a young country with a large number of young people, with a demographic dividend to be harnessed for India's accelerated development. If we cannot actually provide the appropriate nutrition to the children, adolescents, or young adults who are going to be the productive persons, and on the other hand, we are going to see a lot of disease and disability diverting their potential energy from being transformational forces into something that is going to be claiming a lot of our healthcare resources because of disease and disability, then we are actually, in a sense, derailing our developmental agenda. Therefore, nutrition is absolutely pivotal to India's development, and there's no doubt about it. Now, we recognize that when we are talking about nutrition, while in terms of diet, we are really looking at what is on a person's plate and what goes into the person's daily consumption. There are many factors upstream which are actually determining that, right from food production, processing, preservation, pricing, and ultimately when they land upon the person's plate, what, of course, before that, the promotion also becomes an important element. What are the choices and constraints that are leading to that individual choosing what goes onto the plate? So unless we identify some of those forces and try and influence them through informed advocacy and have the evidence to back it up, we are unlikely to provide the kind of benefits that even clinical nutrition can bring in. Because it's all right to say that you must have this kind of food, but if the person is unable to afford it or is being diverted from that by commercial forces who are overloading with ultra-processed foods and or promoting them very aggressively, then we are failing to reach our objectives of healthy nutrition despite all the knowledge we have. And just as Dr. Madan had very clearly said, that people may have the information and the knowledge, but their behaviors are sometimes still not matching that. And there is a cognitive dissonance over there between behaviors and knowledge. The same thing applies in terms of actually ensuring that whatever knowledge we have as people interested in nutrition is not getting translated into policy or programs because we are unable to influence them, and that disconnect also needs to be bridged at the policy level. So whether it is at the individual behavior level or at the policymaker behavior level, we need to ensure that the right behaviors are adopted and the right policies are promoted. And therefore, it's absolutely important for us to look at how best we can ensure that some of these connections are there. Quite often, when it comes to diet, it is said that choice is the thing that is going to drive the individual behavior. But we recognize that choice can be either conscious or conditioned or constrained. Conscious either on the basis of the right information or the wrong information. Conditioned by aggressive marketing and promotion, by cultural traditions, by peer pressure, and constrained by economic factors or even availability. Like, for example, we know that during the lockdown, a lot of people started taking manufactured ultra-processed foods because a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables were not available. So there are several types of constraints also which limit your ability to take healthy food even when you're aware of it. So many of these things need to be addressed in the right manner so that whatever scientific knowledge is being accumulated is transformed from evidence into application by removing all the obstacles on this pathway. I'm happy that this particular initiative is being launched on the World Obesity Day. And certainly that is an area of great concern because we are seeing this becoming an important problem. And Dr. Johanna Ralston is a great friend of mine from the past and present too. And we have been comrades in arms in different organizations, the World Heart Federation as well as the NCD Alliance, and we have had common battles. In obesity, we recognize that we are seeing a huge problem which extends across the life course. We recognize that even children who are born undernourished because of intrauterine or early childhood malnutrition can get rebound adiposity very soon. And even though they do not appear to be obese, their body adiposity is very high, body fat content is very high, and as they grow into adolescence and young adulthood, they're more likely to manifest glucose intolerance as well as early onset of cardiovascular disease. And we know that visceral obesity is far more prominent in India. Therefore, even beyond the conventional boundaries of internationally accepted anthropometric indices of obesity and overweight, we find that in India, the problem is even more substantial because we see even in the under 25 BMI, a fair amount of cardiometabolic disease. Therefore, this is what's been called the metabolic obesity. So in India, this is a huge problem. And even in terms of non-communicable diseases, we are seeing a huge rise now. For example, a survey in Delhi a few years ago by colleagues in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in young persons above the age of 20 years showed a diabetes prevalence of 25%. This is a community survey of persons above 20 years of age. And pre-diabetes was found in 47%. So a whopping 73% had dysglycemia. And this is in the city of Delhi. Of course, it may not be as dire in other places in India, but nevertheless, we are seeing a huge profusion of data related to diabetes and non-communicable diseases emerging both from urban and rural settings in India. So these are threats to India's development. So when we are talking about India's developmental agenda, we have to certainly position nutrition as a very, very important factor in trying to steer India on the right path of developmental journey and certainly not have our development derailed by a lot of disease and disability, which is eminently preventable by healthy nutrition. And for that, we need policies to be reset. The coordinates need to be reset. And it is very essential that evidence-informed advocacy by people who are influential in the nutrition community is sustained. I know that in the area of undernutrition, we have had great champions from several years, like Dr. Gopalan and many others, and it had an impact. But we must now recognize that nutrition now is deranged in many forms. Many forms of malnutrition exist, and all of these require a life course attention. We have had eminent pediatricians addressing childhood malnutrition. We have had some addressing adult malnutrition in terms of obesity and overweight and cardiometabolic disease. We now need to construct a continuity across the entire life course and ensure that public health nutrition addresses all the aspects of nutrition, preventing any nutritional derangement in any form. And for that, we need sound policies. And we must also look and anticipate the future, even as we are trying to correct the present. And again, nutrition can help reset. It was very correctly pointed out that children are the most important, and what we are really planning now is for the future of the children. So we have to look beyond the current generation and also look at the future generations and see what's going to happen and set the systems in order through public health nutrition so that we can actually ensure a sound future for the children to be born, and not only the children who are currently now with us. Just to look at where we are, if you look at India now, we have 46.6 million children who are stunted, 25.5 million children who are wasted, 73 million children who are anemic. And we recognize that this is the present problem, but we know that there are many forces which are likely to hurt us even as we move along. For example, climate change. When we look at the impact of climate change on our food systems and agriculture systems, the water stress, 54% of India is under extreme water stress. We are having rising sea levels, flooding coastal lands, so that coastal agriculture is affected. Our fish yields are affected. So we have to recognize that lots of things are happening in areas that we are not directly involved with, but ultimately which will impact all of us because of environmental degradation. It has been postulated, it's been modeled rather, that by 2050, the impact of climate change in India because of rising temperature will result in 49.6 million new zinc deficient persons, 38.2 million new protein deficient persons, 396 million iron deficient women by 2050, 106.1 million iron deficient children by 2050. And we must also recognize whether it is staples or non-staples, they are being affected by global warming. We now know that in both South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, staples like rice and wheat are operating right at the very upper limit of heat sensitivity, and even a 1 degree rise in 1 degree centigrade rise in temperature will result in a 10% reduction in the yield of staples. Even the quality of staples is going down, as I said, in terms of zinc, iron, and protein. And we recognize that even non-staples are going to be affected in the nutrient quality, and fruit and vegetables will ripen early and rot early. So we have to recognize that there are many policies outside our own sectors which are going to be impacting on how we will be dealing with nutrition in the future. Therefore, even though we are not directly involved in this, we have to try and raise the banner of public health nutrition and try and influence policies and try and join others who are trying to change policies in the right direction in other areas. So I think public health nutrition is absolutely pivotal in trying to correct the problems that are occurring directly in the area of nutrition consumption and practices by people, which is what we do as dietitians or people involved in dietary advice. but also extend to all other elements of nutrition from production to consumption, where across that chain, wherever the policies are deranged, wherever the programs are malfunctioning, we ought to be really able to exercise a corrective influence. And for that, I'm extremely glad that research is being undertaken on the scale that Dr. Madan has stated, that we are going to be seeing the Indian Dietetic Association playing a great role in data collection across the country, in mapping the extent of malnutrition in this country, and then using that as a platform for campaigning for the right kind of policies and programs. I think that is the kind of transformational role and the force that has to be unleashed by the Indian Dietetic Association through this special interest group. I believe that there is a great opportunity for us to shape the future and ensure that India's developmental journey proceeds with the right kind of nourishment, with the right kind of nutrition, and with a great opportunity for everybody, particularly the children of today as well as the children of tomorrow, to attain their fullest potential unimpeded by poor nutrition, because there is a great potential that lies within this country, and that has to be harnessed for the good of India as well as for the good of the world. And if we, in the area of public health, and you in particular in the area of public health nutrition, can enable that to happen, then the India and the world would be the biggest beneficiary of all. So I wish you the very best in this journey as you start. As Nobel laureate Toni Morrison said, if we do not create the future, the present extends itself. We cannot afford a passive response. We need an active, assertive response to reshape the future in the right manner. And unfortunately, if we have a passive response, then the future will not only extend itself in the present form, it will be worse than the present. Yes. But we cannot allow it to happen. I don't think we will allow it to happen with leadership like that we have today with the Public Health Nutrition Interest, Special Interest Group coming forth in such absolutely, a very clear-cut vision. The vision that you have enunciated is so vivid and vibrant that I'm sure India will greatly benefit as we move along our developmental journey. And we on the sidelines as public health advocates will be there as your cheerleaders to support you as you move public health nutrition to a higher plane of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think these words are so encouraging and so motivating for each one of us. And I think you all are the torch bearers. And I feel as a community, we are all together and committed to contribute. So whatever it takes, and like you so very well explained, the connect between a dietitian working in a clinical setting and extending the horizon to reach the arm of public health nutrition. I think it was so very well worded. Thank you so much, sir, for those words of encouragement. Thank you.
I really appreciate your wonderful thought-provoking talk, sir, and giving us a kind of direction as well as you can say that commitment that what lies ahead is not a simple journey, we all know. But at the same time, with your experience and your guidance, definitely we know we can move forward. Sir, can we just take, Doctor, some questions, if it is okay with you, Doctor?
Most certainly, sure.
Yeah. Nimali, would you like to ask some questions from Dr. Reddy or Dr. Geeta? Would you like to take up something?
You can look at the chat box. Yeah.
So I would say that India has been struggling on the public health front, and not only India, now the world has shown that they have not been very serious about the health of the countries, the developed worlds also. So what is it in India that we have a major gap. We are very good planners. We are very good policymakers, but the action on ground is somehow failing us. So, can you, sir, guide us? How can we take this forward? How can the policymakers need to take the action to the field, and that what is the bridging gap that can be there?
You're absolutely right. Well, firstly, I think it is important for us to remember that policy sometimes is made in a very peculiar manner, and it's not always the right kind of policy. So it's very important for us to keep knocking on the door and try and inform and influence that policy. But then the next step is to ensure that there is adequate implementation as well. A friend from Thailand once told me several years ago that you Indians are wonderful in terms of coming up with excellent solutions, but you don't implement them. We don't think of these solutions by ourselves, but we implement them much better. So in a sense, we also do definitely need a better coordination and better ability to implement. I think part of the problem has been also the lack of adequate training of people who are actually involved in implementation. And next is coordination between the multiple agencies who are actually implementing. And that lack of coordination affects, and we are seeing how Women and Child Development Department and Health Department have seldom collaborated with each other, either at the ministry level or at the ground level. So we need to try and correct all of those factors. But I think training in public health is going to be very helpful, even in terms of implementation, improving the implementation, not just at the policy level, but also conducting implementation research by also ensuring that the outcomes are properly monitored, not just the process indicators, but the outcome indicators are properly monitored. We can have embedded evaluation of programs so that mid-course corrections can be carried out. I think we need to build a lot more public health capacity. Even in the people having nutrition training, I think getting a little bit of public health training in addition, particularly in terms of systems analysis, in terms of implementation research, all of these will be helpful. But ultimately, we also need a lot more of collective advocacy. When we monitor and find faults or problems, and particularly those which can be corrected, I think collective advocacy by a number of health and nutrition groups will help bring attention and action faster. Otherwise, if we act in isolation, it's easy for policymakers and administrators to ignore us.
So one of the objectives of this group is to facilitate that kind of training to the nutrition fraternity, like who will be becoming a part of this special interest group. So I think I'll really look forward to collaborating with the Public Health Foundation of India. So where we can have small capsules of training for the members. And especially what I feel is that we do leverage a lot of things. We do a lot of knowledge dissemination, but we are completely at a disadvantage to assess the impact of the same. How do we do those things very meticulously? How objective and scientific we can be. I think that's probably the one aspect of training in a small capsule which nutritionists can get.
Yeah, I think that is something that we can all benefit from, whether it's health programs or nutrition programs or other types of development programs. So getting implementation research much better introduced into our training is going to be helpful, and they can be done as supplemental training in short capsules, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. And like as you just said, very well said, that the dissemination of the research and the scientific knowledge has to reach to the grassroots level. And I think that is where the youngsters need to bridge in the gap by these special kind of trainings under the wonderful mentorship and the guidance, as you just mentioned. So I'm sure that through this vision of ma'am and all the experienced personalities, we can take this movement as at a grassroots level, wherein we also imbibe along with the governmental policies, whether it could be WCD or it could be even probably the newer kind of education system, wherein we highlight and focus more on say not only the community nutrition, but the word community nutrition somehow doesn't go well with the youngsters, at least in India. This is what is my personal experience. They always like to say, oh, I want to take up the research, or I want to go into clinical nutrition or dietetics, but they do not think that what can be, they can be the game changers in terms of the public health. I think that is where probably we would need your help also in how we can really make the small change in the education system also, where we can add up these small little super specialization courses, something like that. What could be your take
No,
on
no,
it?
I entirely agree with you. I fully agree with you. And this happens even in clinical medicine versus public health. Because the clinicians feel that this is something that is to be ignored, somebody else will do it. It's not very prestigious. But on the other hand, when you recognize that all the skills that you've been trained for and all the, efficiency that you bring into your clinical practice, whether as a doctor or as a nutritionist, is substantially degraded by the fact that there are extraneous factors working on as limiting factors. I mean, if it's all right to say what is to be put on the plate as a good nutrition, but if there are many factors upstream which are preventing that plate from getting filled or being regularly used by the person because of so many other factors, then that is actually an affront to your training and your knowledge. So that is how I think the passion must be built up even among the people in nutrition. Look, we are learning all this. This is the right kind of knowledge and right kind of practice we believe in. But there are so many obstacles that are being created which prevent our knowledge from being fully utilized and benefiting people. So let us change those circumstances. I think that is the kind of passion that must be created, so that they must feel that their productivity is going to be fully realized only when some of the other environmental factors, policy elements are going to be modified. They don't have to necessarily get on the street agitating, but they have to use all their ability to advocate from a position of important, knowledge creators. So that if they actually say that this is the information we have, this is the knowledge we have, and based on this knowledge, we are challenging this policy or we are urging for this policy to be changed, I think the collective voice will make a difference. So I think they should see themselves as change agents and not, as practicing something that is not linked to their main area of training.
And also, sir, creating local success stories based on local resources. I think that's another area which can be taken up in a very aggressive manner. Creating local success stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even if some people can change school meals, that will be a great success. If people can change factory meals, that will be a great success. If some people can actually ensure that local farming is much more responsive to local needs, that's a success. So I think nutrition must be the showing the light for other sectors to follow.
So we'll take your guidance, sir, at each step and move forward. Yeah.
Ma'am, your passion and your wisdom are going to be adequate for leading the way forward. But we are here essentially to provide any support that you need.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Maybe the final one pointer which you would like to just share with all our participants who are the budding nutritionists, clinical dietitians, and also with a lot of experienced people also are there in the audience. 1 or 2 pointers, you can just say that as the final take-home message for them.
No, let me say that people who make the difference at the highest level are people who bring in some degree of public health knowledge and practice to their profession. Whether it is in pediatrics, you have seen public health pediatrics has become the most important. Even in chronic diseases, preventive cardiology has become very important. And in everywhere, there is a public health dimension that is brought in, whether it is even in obstetrics, for example, there is so much of public health element that is brought in terms of improving systems for preventing maternal mortality through better antenatal care and program delivery. So all of these are things that make a huge difference. So I think nutritionists, even if they are practicing clinical dietitians, should not underestimate their importance in becoming change agents. So recognize your potential and power, and you can actually be the most profound change agents, because as I said, in every step of human life, nutrition is the most important factor. So if you can actually try and change the conditions in which improper nutrition is replaced by healthy nutrition, then you are actually achieving a profound change for society. And you can play that role without sacrificing your interest in clinical nutrition.
Yes.
So can I say something as a ambassador to the government on health? Would you convey a message to the government that nutrition should be taken as a preventive medicine seriously in terms of both undernutrition and overnutrition and prevention of NCDs? So, I mean, you are at that point that you can definitely convey a niche. I mean, you can be that person who can influence the policymakers to introduce nutrition as a preventive strategy.
I think, sir, what we can recommend is there should be IDA representation at the Niti Aayog. I think, maybe at some helm where, some set of nutritionists can represent, a voice there and contribute, and essentially, take it down and see to it that it's working. So maybe, I mean, we'll wait for that date also.
I think basically what you've said is absolutely right. How they will receive it depends upon how much of influence you can demonstrate in mobilizing your own community.
Correct.
If you can mobilize your community very effectively and demonstrate the power and strength, they will heed your advice and they will treat you with far greater respect and reverence. On the other hand, if they only see you as people advising individual patients, they won't have that level of attention.
Correct.
We do have Academia of Nutritionists. I mean, the nutrition fraternity in the Poshan Abhiyan. We are partners with the government, and we had been there since February 2019 when they held the meeting. Shweta was also there at the meeting, if she remembers, and I hope that Indian Dietetic Association also can take this forward.
Sure.
I'm sure, ma'am. Basically, you'll have to use every opportunity. I'm sure raising the banner of healthy nutrition is going to be very important, and people will listen to you. I mean, you don't need me to be the advocate. I'll always be there as an advocate, but they'll listen to you.
Okay.
But there are simple things like, for example, when we are talking even in terms of Ayush and the importance of healthy nutrition as a part of Indian tradition, you can use every single opportunity to say that healthy nutrition is part of our tradition and has to be part of our future. But how we define healthy nutrition is important, and how we create the conditions for healthy nutrition is also important. Just talking about traditions of healthy nutrition is not going to serve us. We have to change things so that healthy nutrition becomes practical and possible. So that is where I think you will have to exert your power with the government.
Sure, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir, for making us awaken our thoughts on recognize your potential and be the game agent for the society in terms of nutrition, and don't wait for the change to be done by somebody else. I think that's a very strong positioning of today's theme talk. And I once again Thanks a lot from the whole team of SIG and our chairperson, Dr. Jagmeet Madan, Dr. Nimali Singh, Dr. Shweta, who has been instrumental in making this program being so cohesive and make it happen so successfully. And I'm really very appreciative of our complete team. I now look forward to our next speaker. May I now request Dr. Johanna Ralston for the theme talk of this today's launch. Dr. Johanna is the CEO. It is a really wonderful privilege to have you with us, ma'am. Being the CEO of the World Obesity Federation since 2017. Earlier, you had been CEO of World Heart Federation, founder of NCD Alliance, and also you have served as the Vice President Global Strategies at American Cancer Society, alumnus of the Harvard Business School and Johns Hopkins Institute. It is really a privilege and honor to have you with us, ma'am, today, and your significant contributions in public health under the various capacities are laudable. And it is our privilege to have you as the guest of honor. I kindly invite you, Dr. Johanna, to deliver the theme talk of today's Accelerate Action on Arresting Obesity in India, Way Forward. Oh, may I request you, Dr. Johanna, to please highlight your points.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your kind introduction, Dr. Jagmeet. Thank you, Dr. Sushma, for your wonderful introduction, and to Dr. Shweta for including me today. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to Dr. Reddy, who is my friend and colleague for many years. I had the privilege of working particularly closely with Dr. Reddy when I was at World Heart Federation and he was the president. And while it was challenging, it was so, we had such a wonderful times too. And I am very pleased to be here because of course he's been such an important figure in global public health. And so again, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. It's almost 6 o'clock in the morning here. I'm in Boston right now. My organization is in London, but thanks to the life in the pandemic, I'm in Boston this year, and very happy to be up and doing such an important topic, because I'll be coming at this just a little bit from the global level and then giving India specific data. I'm not an expert in India. I do work very closely with WHO on global obesity issues. The World Obesity Federation is the partner to WHO on obesity, and but India is perhaps, I would say, in a completely biased way, perhaps the most important country because of its size, because of its particular profile of the double burden of malnutrition, because of its culture, I think, of innovation, which I think is incredibly important. And I think Dr. Reddy was making incredibly important points about you as experts are also advocates, and the strength of your collective voice is so critical to addressing the global challenge of the double burden of malnutrition, including overweight and obesity, as well as underweight. And that global burden in turn is critical to global health and development. So where India goes will have an enormous impact on the world. So I'm coming at it from a global perspective. I will now pull up my presentation here. So I'll go through, hopefully fairly quickly, some broad slides to speak about our work, and then can everybody see the slide? Does that look okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, just want to make sure. Life in the Zoomerverse. I tried to create a new DSM category called PZST, post-Zoom traumatic disorder, because we spend so much time on Zoom, trying to mute, to unmute, to spend our mornings and our evenings on Zoom calls. So I think we're all experiencing life in the Zoomerverse, and sometimes it is a bit of a challenge, but I'm really, really pleased to be here today. So for World Obesity Federation, I'll say a few things about where we are. We work all over the world in different areas in advocacy and training through World Obesity Day, which I'll speak to a bit later. And again, that is the World Obesity Day that takes place on March 4th. I understand today is Global Anti-Obesity Day, and I thank you for celebrating this in India, and also look forward to your participation in what we're doing in March. I'll explain a little bit more about why it's so especially important in 2021 for India to be actively involved in this work. So currently globally, there is 2 billion people with overweight and obesity, really close to 1 billion adults and children with obesity when you factor these together, as newer numbers become available. There are multiple interventions and approaches that have been tried, but the overall rates are not coming down. And we'll explain a little bit why. The double burden itself, I think we know very much in India and increasingly in different parts, very much in various parts of the world. And WHO targets on obesity are falling far short. I'll speak to this. So the top box here, this is the World Obesity Federation strategic plan. And we have oriented it around the global targets, which are not being met around overweight and obesity worldwide. So we have targets that were approved as part of the WHO Global Action Plan on NCDs in 2013, that there would be a 0 increase in adult and childhood obesity prevalence by 2025. There's also the Sustainable Development Goal 3.4, which is a 1/3 reduction in premature NCD mortality by 2030, which has obesity as an indicator as well, and which we'll explain more is also falling short. And then within the SDGs on ending hunger, we have, i.e. SDG 2, we have a SDG target 2.2 to end malnutrition in all its forms. And then we have the World Health Organization Commission on Ending Childhood Obesity, of which Dr. Reddy was one of the commissioners, which speaks to the sort of the ECHO recommendations, which were adopted at the World Health Assembly in 2017, again, also falling short. So for World Obesity Federation, in our 5-year planning process, which started in 2019, and we adopted a 5-year plan that began this year, we felt that some of the reasons that we were not reaching these targets was that there had not been a robust enough civil society voice trying to pursue these, and then also all the things that we know about policy inertia, about lack of political prioritization, and about sort of other elements more broadly in NCDs that make action a challenge, as well as, of course, the role of industry, and this is very much an issue in the food space. So our strategic goals, which are to lead global advocacy for obesity, to convene obesity stakeholders globally, and again, convening is a very important part of what we do, which is to try to bring different actors around the table, including the private sector in food. We need to be talking, even as some of their role is problematic and driving this challenge. Training and building capacity in obesity, and that includes obesity societies and organizations, as well as training healthcare professionals in how to address and manage obesity, and then collation and dissemination of knowledge and evidence. And with that, we have the Global Obesity Observatory and journals and other mechanisms for sharing knowledge. Our priority initiatives are around food systems, health systems, and childhood obesity. So how are we doing on the targets? Again, these are the ones I mentioned. We are not meeting them. This year, in March on World Obesity Day, we looked at the target of no increase in the prevalence of obesity by 2025. One of 9 targets that the WHO adopted again in 2013 to 2025 in different areas of NCDs. And this one is, we created a report card on how countries are doing. Few countries have a better than 50% chance of meeting these targets. It really is, most countries have almost between a 0 and 10% chance of meeting these targets. And then we look at childhood obesity. Childhood obesity is treated both separately and together with adult obesity. And so we have some separate data, but then some of our work, some of what we talk about is aggregate data, even though the metrics for measuring childhood and defining childhood obesity are different to the BMI that's used for adults. This is UNICEF data showing percentage of overweight children under 5. So not all children, but those under 5 by UN subregions in 2019. And so one can see that there is, so for example, it's not just a US or Mexico problem at all. We're seeing very high rates in places like Southern Africa, and the highest rates, which I think is important. So Southeast Asia and South Asia and in India in particular, the rates are relatively speaking not that high, but the numbers are of course extremely high, and the rates are not coming down. But in places like Southern Africa, we certainly see very high rates. We also see that in particular in the small island developing states, in the Caribbean, in the Maldives, I believe this is also true, and then in the Pacific Islands, where there are high rates of childhood and adult obesity, and some of those are related to unfortunate trade policies, loss of sort of sovereign food systems, and also aggressive marketing of unhealthy products. So those are some of the factors contributing to that. So again, in childhood obesity, we should say 4 million people in general, adults dying of obesity-related causes, and the increase fourfold in childhood obesity rates, and more children with obesity than undernourished, except for in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. And again, the ECHO report outlines possible interventions for this across 6 domains, ranging from sort of early childhood, from maternal and child health care onto school-based interventions and physical activity, as well as management of childhood obesity. The atlas that we put out last year in October 2019 looked at the increasing rates, and we can see it in the highest increases again in Africa, Middle East, and Pacific Islands, very much highlighting that this is a double burden issue. And here are just more estimates to show, again, sort of broadly some of the numbers I'm speaking to. This is a figure I think is really helpful from UNICEF that shows the interrelationship between stunting, overweight, anemia, and wasting, and where the diagram shows that they are overlapping, so that we can see sort of, the places where that there are many countries where there is stunting, wasting, overweight, and anemia. And so the fact, including India, and so that there is, again, different. There are a few places where there's only one undernutrition or only overweight and being key issues. And so, again, one of the dominant theories, and I think this was also echoed in Dr. Reddy's remarks, and is that shift from an individual view of this double burden to looking at sort of the individual in a system to a much more broader systems thinking approach to how this fits. And that goes into some of the upstream determinants that I think Dr. Reddy was alluding to as well, in terms of the role of upstream drivers, the availabilities of food, but how are different, even sort of wider economic systems, how does sort of the private sector role in what is available become a factor? How is, the role of agriculture and even broader issues about equity that are playing a critical role? So this is a snapshot from the World Obesity Federation Global Obesity Observatory. And it's, we're going to describe some of the work in India. I hope that you do use this. This is pulled from measured data at the country level where possible, but we also do use WHO data, NCD risk data. And again, hopefully this can provide information that is helpful for comparing across the region and with other countries. But I'll just show a quick snapshot of the India-specific data. Again, that's drawn partially from measured data from country surveys, and then some of the NCD risk and WHO data, and would really ask if you see things that you think differ to how you measure some of the challenges in India, please let us know, because our data is only as good as our sources, which in many cases are you, who may have access to even better sources than we have. But we do find that particularly interestingly, in the time of COVID, we are finding a very high number of visits to our data website, because I think COVID itself has illuminated the challenge of obesity in terms of people with obesity being at particularly high risk for complications of COVID and mortality from COVID, but also how lockdown, how the changes to our lives are increasing the risk of unhealthy weight, and particularly how children are being affected by lockdowns, by limited schooling, and so again, we're finding that there's lots of people coming to our website, several thousand a day, for data. So we really welcome your views. And so this is a figure that we that I think one of my colleagues at PHFI also produced, showing sort of some of the issues in India, where there's been an increase in overweight and obesity, sort of starting to eclipse underweight as a big challenge. So just broadly, here are quick numbers on the adult prevalence of obesity and overweight in India, 2015 to 2016 among adults only. So showing that it is a growing problem. It is not obviously at the same level as we see in places where obesity is very much the dominant challenge, such as many of the Pacific Islands, for example. But it is certainly a substantial problem, and especially given, of course, India. Children, the challenge is also still quite low, but growing, and of great concern. Higher among boys, as you can see, than girls. I hope this matches your data. Interestingly, overweight and obesity by education are, it looks like there's a higher prevalence of at least overweight among more educated populations, but that may be changing. And so we would welcome your thoughts on these numbers as well. And of course, urban versus rural, there is clearly higher levels of overweight and obesity among urban populations, as is the case, but not insignificant numbers in the rural areas as well. Insufficient physical activity, these are just some comparative numbers, and among adults here across the region. So India does have sort of higher rates of physical inactivity in comparison to other countries in CRO region, I believe, and per capita food intake being lower. This is a report card that we produced as part of a MAP study to look at both health systems, particularly look at health systems, but the wider policy environment in 60 countries. And it's a qualitative assessment that was published in Clinical Obesity last year. One area that's been a priority for World Obesity Federation is defining obesity as a disease, which we feel is we feel that obesity sits both as a risk factor and a disease. It's similar to diabetes in that way. The definition of obesity as a disease can go a long way to help explain some of sort of characterize the pathophysiology of obesity, but also to help potentially reduce some of the stigma or the perception that this is just a matter of sort of individual failing, when in fact both at the systems level, both it's much more about upstream drivers, but also there are sort of changes, metabolic changes that come about. There are genetic drivers that are very play a key role, and sort of epigenetic factors, so that this has the characteristics of both a risk factor and a disease, and as such we want to understand how the health system addresses it. But also what is the environment for taxes and subsidies to help protect or assist the population around obesity, and sort of obesity specific recommendations and guidelines published for adults or for children. We found there were not really guidelines for children, and welcome. I'd really love to hear from you if this matches your experience, but that was our kind of top level view. So again, back to these targets. I want to tell a little bit now about what we're doing, and then go into talk specifically about how this can relate to accelerating action in India, which again, I would say is such a critical country in achieving these targets, frankly. So for global advocacy, one of our main activities, while we work closely with the World Health Organization and we comment on policies and attempt to influence them, we also use mechanisms like World Obesity Day. I'm going to speak specifically about World Obesity Day 2020 for a few reasons. One was that we were able to, so this was in March 2020. I like to think of it as the day before we all went inside into lockdown, because it was really at the moment when it was becoming apparent that we all needed to go into lockdown for COVID. But we were able to persuade our colleagues from around the world to stop doing separate obesity days, and to try to do one common day. I think Dr. Reddy would remember from when we were with World Heart Federation that there was World Heart Day, but then there were different heart months and days all over the world. And it was, while World Heart Day is a fantastic event, it's slightly fragmented. And we had felt that if we could persuade as many people as possible to not do separate days, but to also do one common day, and then to do separate activities around the year, we would be more effective. And we really saw an increase in intention, sort of attention and numbers. And it was a very, very encouraging event, and received a huge amount of attention, especially considering that COVID was just taking over the consciousness of what was going on. And the main message that we wanted to carry is one that you'll see at this picture of sort of the roots of obesity. So this whole idea that really the roots of obesity are complex. It's not just, too much food, too little exercise, although of course that's playing a factor, but that there are, there's life events that trigger overweight and obesity. There's mental health, there's sort of the healthcare system. And then there's issues like marketing of unhealthy products, which we see in many low and middle income countries. Biology, of course, plays a factor. So there's a host of different issues that are contributing to the obesity challenge. And so, which means that no one single solution will be effective. There's a obesity thought leader in the UK, Harry Rudder, who says, the single solution to addressing obesity is to see that there is no single solution to addressing obesity. We need multiple solutions working together. And from that, and that's why Roots is also important in terms of what we want to see happen, which is a comprehensive and integrated approach. So we had excellent coverage in India, and I want to thank our colleagues in India again. We worked with WHO and UNICEF. We worked with a number of high-income country members again to have them discontinue separate days and come together around this. And then so for 2021, I just want to say we're in this planning phase, and we hope that you will work with us as well. And the theme is really everybody, meaning everybody works together. And we do have the hands selfies, which we ask people to submit as well. But really, this is something that everybody needs to be partnering on. You can see we asked Helen Mirren to help us, and she's a wonderful person, and so she offered to help out and support our day as well. And we see that the nutrition community in India has a really important role to play in communicating about this, and so we hope that you will be engaged with us and part of our even welcome you to be part of our advisory group and guide us on this. Again, on sort of some of the work with childhood obesity that we hope you can also be more involved in is sort of our Healthy Voices website, which is youth driven, because we think the voice of young people in childhood obesity in particular is missing. We had a campaign for World Children's Day on Friday, which was allowing young people to take over our Twitter account and tweet out about their own concerns. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of engaging youth. I am so impressed with youth advocates that I meet in the work that I do, and I'm sure that you have the same experience, and they are looking for respect and a voice, and they have such an important role to play in all of this. We also have, of course, the work that we do through the syndemic of obesity, undernutrition, and climate change, which was the Lancet report that came out now just almost 2 years ago, looking at how these are interrelated, and welcome your participation in this as well. The other point I wanted to mention, because it's a global activity, which is really important for India to be part of, and I'll be almost finished with this presentation and looking forward to Q&A, is the Food System Summit. The UN Food System Summit is coming up in October of 2021. And we really do want to see much more about double burden in that summit. We are participating in 2 of the work streams, but hope that that we can have strong from the country voices talking about the importance of really addressing malnutrition in all its forms. With ECHO, we are as you're aware, ECHO implementation is slow, and we look forward to your helping to accelerate action on ECHO as well. That's very much a priority of our childhood obesity work. We have other activities that help convene stakeholders, but here the Roots Declaration is something that we're also working towards a resolution in 2021, hopefully at the World Health Assembly, which is again looking at all the different elements, all the actions that need to happen around addressing obesity. One thing we've learned is that WHO likes acronyms. So if you have a good acronym for a complex problem, they will, there are better chances for there to be adoption of it. And WHO has appreciated sort of the Roots Declaration. I believe that Monica Aurora, I believe PHFI is a signatory to this, and hope that this is something that can resonate for you and you can adapt to the India country level. But R is recognize obesity as a risk factor and a disease. S is around systems. O is around obesity through the life course. We also look to change the obesity narrative, and I just want to mention that one thing we're working towards is people first language, so that we say people with obesity, not obese people, so that we can kind of remove people from what is really a disease and a risk factor, and place the person first, and trying to use imagery, no headless bodies, no pictures of just people gorging themselves on junk food, but more respectful images that show people with obesity as human beings first. I think it's something we see a lot in the media in the US and the UK, very sort of discriminating imagery. And even that there is stigma sometimes, there are inherent bias among even providers who don't understand the person with overweight and obesity who's presenting perhaps with a comorbidity is not weak or but really somebody who's suffering from a very complex condition. And we work through SCOPE, which is our Strategic Center for Professional Education, as well as with Research Triangle Institute on the cost of obesity. And we will, India is one of our pilot countries for standardizing sort of the economic impact of obesity and projecting out to 2030 and 2080. So we will have some numbers that will be published in advance of World Obesity Day, and hope that these are numbers that are useful to you in advocating for more resources. Because I think they really speak to, they're very alarming numbers, particularly for India, in terms of showing the cost of inaction versus cost of action. I hope that you can also come to our website for the policy dossiers, and I hope you can contribute India-specific examples to those. So again, we really, please come to us and contribute information to our dossiers. They're meant to be resources for everybody, and they do receive lots of web traffic. So that's just very broadly kind of slides. And I think, again, my hope is that what this gives is a global picture, but a global strategy without national implementation is just like, as was alluded to in the earlier presentation, a national strategy without implementation, national policy without implementation. And so there's so much that you are doing that helps make all of these, our global strategy, possible. And I hope that there are things with our global strategy that can help you in your advocacy for greater prioritization. I will stop sharing the screen so that we can come back to our gallery view, and hope that there are perhaps some questions or comments on this. And if you disagree with something, or if there's something that you think, I'd love to hear that too. So that's my slides, and I look forward to for the last portion of this to be able to hear some questions or comments from you.
Johanna, I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, we all know that the amount of fat and amount of sugar that we have in fast food and the packaged food. Why is WHO and World Obesity Confederation not taking this ahead as a policy in all the governments across the globe that we need to cut? And why are we not making stricter rules? I mean, when we already know what is the problem, and making a physical activity, promotion of physical activity. So, I mean, I cannot make a person run, but definitely as a government policy, FSSAI has taken this initiative of cutting trans fat in the packaged food. But in India, we're still struggling with packaged food which is not made under the FSSAI this thing, and there are a lot of local producing units who are producing at their own level, and they are not getting any classification. So this is a major problem in India, but globally I see that the amount of trans fat and the saturated fat and the sugar levels remain high, and the government has not taken any stringent steps to. So what can be done about it? How can we be the, yeah.
It's an excellent example of I think I would say policy inertia and industry interference. The private sector is very resistant and very well resourced to these challenges. I would say there's some progress being made, but it is very concerning how much sugar sweetened beverages are, the prevalence of sugar sweetened beverages, the prevalence of sugar and fat in foods. I think those are there's been very clear examples of industry interference in this, and it's very unfortunate. There's also a push for, there's a practice of voluntary changes, which just, I think we know they're not effective. I certainly perhaps 10 years ago thought voluntary would be enough, but it's not. And I think it's almost the very nature of a lot of these large companies that dominate the food industry are their first client is their shareholder. They're legally required to, increase value for their shareholder, and that is often at odds with these kinds of changes that need to happen in the food system. In the area of trans fats, it's very interesting because I think we're all familiar with Bloomberg and Michael Bloomberg philanthropies, because that is they've done a targeted sort of initiative around trans fats. There's starting to be some real progress on that. I perhaps was skeptical when that first was launched, but I actually am impressed that that the level of trans fats is coming down, and WHO has just launched a new certification program for that. And so in a way, I might suggest that, I think starting with that, which is a low-hanging fruit that has resourcing and more political will behind it, and more willingness, more resources at WHO level, yes, is where to start, and then to move to the other areas. It would be great to see a food systems framework convention. I think that's really what's needed. I think that's a complex process, but I think we saw that how a framework convention on tobacco control has had huge influence. Yes. And it is that kind of multi-sectoral pulling in trade and agriculture and so many different sectors. It needs that multi-sectoral kind of framing. So yes, I agree, more needs to be done in that area. And again, as I said, for us, it's one of the reasons I really wanted to work in obesity is because it is a wicked problem, a complex problem, that it's like tobacco was, lots of sectors, and it needs a civil society voice that's able to bring those complex actors together. And that is, I think key. Again, WHO has indicated that this is a good time for an obesity resolution. And so I hope that we would use that mechanism as well. Resolution is a good way to get countries to at least have to report back on what they're doing around a particular topic. It can be a very useful instrument for that. So that's what we're working towards. And this is certainly an area that needs to be addressed within that. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
Politics are wicked.
I know. Sushma,
well, but they can be our friend too if we know how to work with them. So
I mean, Sheila ma'am would like to ask a question. Sheila ma'am, can you unmute yourself and ask?
Yes.
My question is, do you also build sustainable eating into your campaigns?
So the question is what? How do we build sustainable eating into our campaign?
If you do, yes, how do you build it?
Oh, how do you build it? So at World Obesity Federation, we're a membership organization of groups that are working in obesity, both at the sort of the public facing level and the research level. So that differs somewhat. I mean, that differs country to country. It's something that we encourage. But and so through World Obesity Day, for example, we certainly have messaging around sustainable diets as well, depending on what the topic is each year. And we support research in that area. But I think we mostly do that through encouraging our members to support these campaigns. And again, that is where these broader WHO and also FAO kind of agendas are really important to help support that. In the coming year for the Food System Summit, we will be talking a lot about sustainable diet and the importance into, in everyday life and in sort of, So I think that there's the work across, obesity is an area that's both on the food side and on the health side. So I think what we try to do is to also advocate for food and health systems and health and food systems. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
And best wishes for the great work you're doing.
Thank you. And for you too, even greater work.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Dr. Reddy, do you have anything to say about this? I welcome your views on this.
No, I entirely agree with you. I think there are so many interrelated elements that we need to really ensure that multiple constituencies are brought together, not just sporadically, but in a continuous frame of action. And I think in terms of sustainability, that provides a great platform. And that is an area where the young people are particularly concerned. And as you said, they're full of both vision as well as a lot of vigor, and we ought to be able to mobilize that to our advantage. I think bringing in sustainability as a key element would be very, very important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for that.
So I think we also believe one of our messages for World Obesity Day is don't waste this crisis. And by that, we mean that obviously the crisis of COVID has had a massive impact on food systems. And I think we can either then build them to what they were, which was not particularly effective, or try to change them. And that is where crises can be very helpful, actually, because they create, there's an urgency, there's an existential threat that we can say, well, if we are, how can we make our food systems more sustainable, more health oriented, less profit oriented, less impeded by policies that aren't helpful. And by that, I really mean kind of the subsidies that you see particularly in the EU and in the US that have an effect on the sort of the global market being flooded with cheap food, which is not often, generally is not nutritious food. So that those are some of the drivers that I think can be changed. And that's where something like the Food System Summit is incredibly important. And I hope that you will be involved as advocates and voices for change from, again, one of the most critical countries in the world to have food systems, effective food systems.
If I may add, because of multiple reasons, the demand for food is going to increase because of growing global population, increasing urbanizations, and to some extent rising incomes. And the supply of food is going to diminish because of decreased arable land, because of the rising population and more urban expansion, as well as climate change.
Climate change, yeah.
So we do require sustainable food systems particularly agricultural systems, which will yield more per unit investment of land, water, and energy. And they have to be both climate smart and climate resilient. And that's how we have to bring in sustainability as a very important element of the nutrition discussion.
Absolutely. Yes, climate change is playing a massive role and is intersecting in very unhealthy ways with sort of the role of, for example, red meat and sort of the livestock and how that is diverting lots of both arable land and sort of the food that's used to feed this livestock. That's also contributing in very significant ways. So that we can't do it. We can only do it if we do it in integrated ways, so that it's sort of we look for sort of double duty and triple duty actions or triple duty wins to improve the overall food system, address both undernutrition and overweight and obesity, and also reduce the burden of climate change. So that's part of building back better that really needs to happen as we move through this crisis into what the post-COVID world, or the world in which COVID is still there, but not at the pandemic phase, what that looks like. Very, very serious issues, but also I think really reinforce how important nutrition is to all of this. I don't know how we're doing for timing, Shweta,
I think Sushma, can you move on to the next part? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just thank you very much,
Dr. Johanna, for your wonderful inputs and the take-home message of don't waste your crisis during this pandemic, and double or triple the duty action to reduce the overall burden of the present time. I think that is a wonderful message for all of us to start our actions on. With these words, I appreciate your presence and your early morning hours, which you have given to us. Really very thoughtful and thought-provoking address, and you have given us a different perspective to think upon and work upon. So definitely our actions will definitely start from now itself. Thanks once again, Dr. Johanna, for your wonderful presence and gracious presence and wonderful perspectives. Thank you.
I actually have to go now myself. Sorry, I've got my work day starts because it's mostly in the UK. But I want to thank you very much. I just admire so much the work that you're doing, and have great confidence in your success, and look forward to working with you in the future.
We would always look back to you for any of your inputs. We'll definitely be back to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks.
Can you stay for 2 minutes? Shweta would be extending her vote of thanks. Just 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, just another 2 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. Dr. Shweta is head nutrition research at the Public Health Foundation Delhi. And we all know that she is a trained and experienced public health nutrition researcher with more than 15 years of experience. And I think we will, as we are running out of time, Shweta will take your complete detailed CV once again during the panel discussion. So you can just extend your vote of thanks from your side. I invite Dr. Shweta to give the formal vote of thanks for the inaugural session. Dr. Shweta, are you there? Okay. I think we have lost her somewhere. No, I think she's joining. Okay.
She's joining.
Yeah, I think she's trying to join. Yeah. I think due to this pandemic time, I think there's network issues, as you said, that we are also overburdened with those issues in our day-to-day life of getting connected and losing connection and again getting back. So I'm sure she would be joining very soon. Yeah. Yeah, I think she's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Shweta, for coming back.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. There was an internet connection issue.
Yes.
Just formally, it's as the co-chair of this SIG, it's my proud privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. And before I actually go on to do so, I want to really summarize this amazing sort of learning which I have had from Dr. Reddy and from you, Johanna. And I very quickly penned down, you said WHO-like acronyms, and I actually penned the word leaders, because today's conference is about building leaders for tomorrow. And so I thought all your teachings, which I learned from Dr. Reddy and you, can be summarized in this word, which is L for life course approach across, across at every spectrum of life. Should be incorporated for talking about overweight, obesity, for talking about public health, nutrition. E is for engaging multiple sectors, whether it's health, whether it's schools, workplace, communities, hygiene, nutrition, you name it, and it's environment, sustainability, finances, everything. So LE. A is for accommodating MCHN in all the policies, like Dr. Reddy kept repeating that nutrition is so pivotal to everything. So we have to accommodate maternal child health and nutrition in almost all policies. D is for developing local, sustainable, innovative solutions. That's the need of the hour, and public health nutrition community must rise to this challenge. Dr. Reddy also again said very categorically, we will not be heeded to, we will not be listened to if we fail to demonstrate our power. So it's important that this community comes up with local, sustainable, innovative solutions. That's D. E for me, again, is evidence of the highest quality. At no point can we undermine the importance of high quality, robust data. And that to me is the E here. R is for robust monitoring, evaluation, and surveillance. Of course, that, like Johanna, all your slides were talking about data. If you don't have good quality data, you don't have good monitoring, evaluation, feedback loops, there's nothing we can move forward together. And last, in terms of leaders, S is for strengthening capacity building. Of the frontline workers, of this community, or in general at every stage to be able to deliver for public health nutrition. So that leaders framework for me was the summary of this amazing, mesmerizing talks both of you gave. So with that, I formally thank both Professor Reddy and Johanna and Dr. Johanna Ralston for taking out this time for us on our special day for the SIG launch. We can absolutely see why you are such celebrated leaders across the globe. Your visionary ideas, mesmerizing delivery, and robust scientific work has, of course, informed and continues to inform policy, but also lights up the eyes of so many younger colleagues, including mine. I'm not calling myself young, but I'm saying it did light up my eyes as well. In addition, the stellar leadership by the IDA National President, whether it's Dr. Madan, whether it's my team here, Nimali, Sushma, Geeta, all those people who are working backstage, the organizing committee, all of them, without them, I don't think we would have been able to do anything. All these team members are ready to move mountains, mind you, and not even once shy away from the hard work. So they really deserve a huge round of applause. I know it's a virtual meeting, but still from our hearts, we can applaud all of them. In addition to this, again, all these 900 to 1,000 participants that have come up, I am so heartened by the fact that there is so much traction for public health nutrition in such a short span. This event was planned just like a week. In a week's time, we were just building up these things and trying to match it. I am so overwhelmed. Maybe a little bit disarray, but at the same time, telling you with all my love and regards and best wishes that this means a lot to all of us, to each one of us. And so all the participants who've joined us from your homes, from your workplaces, from anywhere, thank you for being here and motivating us, paving this bedrock for public health nutrition for tomorrow. And once again, before I end, there are a few pearls of wisdom I've garnered over these years, which tell me that public health nutrition is the amalgamation of several disciplines. It's not nutrition, it's not dietetics, it's not environment, it's not economics alone. Okay, and so it's important to recognize that every drop in this ocean is going to make a significant contribution as public health nutritionists. And so this discipline not only urges stakeholders to move from individual food environments or household food environments to a larger food systems approach. So that connect between homes to the society, to the markets is something we as a community, as a fraternity must try to, aspire for getting into and influencing. Before I end, my darling Mali has asked me to also tell about I know, Johanna, you may not follow, this is a Sanskrit quote, but which means I will also say, it's called Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. It's essentially trying to highlight the importance of staying disease-free and happy. That is stress. We've not talked about that at all here, but important that in nutrition, stress, good sleep, physical activity are also ways to enhance your health. And so with that note, I hand over back to Sushma. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts to each one of you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Johanna, for all your time. And wonderful thanks, vote of thanks. Yeah. Yeah, we could really feel the 900 participants louding, we could really feel that vibration. And we always take in Indian system, the clapping always create the positive vibes. And let's all start our next round of session on panel discussion with the positive vibes. So I request the chairperson, Dr. Nimali Singh, to kindly take over from here and initiate the session.
Neelam, you can skip my slide and you can come directly to Shweta's slide.
Shweta's, yeah.
So Shweta has been my teacher. She has introduced me to public health nutrition, and so I'm very happy to have you, Shweta, as a co-chairperson. I mean, you are the chairperson. I'm learning. She's the head in nutrition research at the Public Health Foundation of India, PHFI Delhi. She is trained and experienced public health nutrition researcher working in the maternal and child health nutrition. And she teaches nutrition epidemiology, and she has served as an expert on various panels constituted by FSSAI, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And she has, through her seminal work on characterizing PHN academic offerings in India and Southeast Asia, we have done a lot of programs in our university faculty has done a lot of programs with PHFI. And we've been trained by her. That is why I always call her my teacher. She developed, design, and orchestrates the role of India's first online PG diploma, PHN, at Public Health Foundation of India. And this course was in its inception till 2014, and she till now. She also lead other short-term capacity building initiatives, and in addition to delivering 90 talks on nutrition policy aspects in India, 65 peer-reviewed articles in scholarly journals, she has also contributed to more than 140 stories. One of them she has shared on your chat box, if you can just go and see. And she has been a young scientist. She has been a young scientist award, and she's a emerging leader, and she has worked with AIMS also, and contributed significantly to the field of nutrition. She's the first panelist on our panel, and I would now request Neelam to have our next panelist, Sushma Paiya. Sushma is a director R&D Salutary Nutri-Foods Mysore, involved in research and development of therapeutic food formulations based on nutraceuticals and bioactives. She is the past Joint Secretary IDA Mysore chapter. She is currently the present convener of IDA Mysore chapter, and she's a life member of AFSTI. She's life member of IDA, NSI, and INMA. She has been awarded Most Innovative Nutrition Counselor of the Year 2019-20 by Merit Awards in Market Research, New Delhi, on February 2020. And now the third and final panelist, Geeta. Actually, Geeta would be starting the panel discussion. I will come to the panel discussion and stop it. Geeta is also one of my teachers. She's a lead in nutrigenomics, and she's registered dietitian and clinical nutritionist. She's a director and founder of Geeta Nutri Heal Consultancy. She's a chief nutrigenomic counselor at Gene Support. She's executive member currently in the Indian Dietetic Association. And she's a past chapter president of Pune chapter, 2010 to 2014. She's faculty course of Integrated Dietetics at SPPU. She's a guest faculty at Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences. She's a bariatric course coordinator online SPT College, Mumbai. She's the adjunct professor at Tilak Maharashtra University Nutrition Department and a PhD guide. She has had 30 years in the field of nutrition. Dr. Geeta feels that right nutrition for health should be great, and considering today's pressure and stress, sedentary work patterns, and food habits, she has developed a holistic approach towards health. So Dr. Madan has she's the chairperson of the panel discussion, and I'm going to moderate the session. Due to her network issues, she has not been able to join. She'll be joining shortly. And what are we looking at in obesity today? This is the anti-obesity day, and we have to think about what is the current positioning of obesity and what is the way forward. I would first like to invite Geeta, and I would like her to throw some light on the initial years, the maternal nutrition, the infant nutrition, and what is the role of development of obesity what is the role of this nutrition in development of obesity in later life. Over to you, Geeta.
Thank you, Nimalidi. It's wonderful, actually. I am a clinical nutritionist, and in this forum of public health experts, I think I'm learning here a lot of areas. And as Dr. Reddy was right in saying, each one of us can create a niche for ourselves if we make a difference or impact to the society. Though being in clinical dietetics, we can always contribute to this public health. And that makes a lot of impact at a community level and a policy level. So I'm really happy I'm a part of this beautiful session. And though I'm not an expert in public health, but I am taking a question on obesity physiology or a cellular health, which is my forte. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, to the whole panel, Nimalidi and Dr. Madan. Definitely, it makes a lot of difference to one's approach towards any kind of session. So now, what is this obesity physiology and why maternal fetal nutrition is so important? Looking at cellular health, let me give you a few perspectives, and I think then the panel can take it ahead from public health point of view. Research has already shown and always shown that maternal health is very important, and it has a very key role in the offspring's risk of NCDs. And this was more found through research in lower and middle lower income countries. Due to impact on fetal programming, both maternal under and overnutrition have been identified as a potential critical component of global burden. So I looked this at two perspectives. One is undernutrition and one is overnutrition. We will look at undernutrition first and see how a maternal programming or a fetal programming impacts at a cellular level. So we all know that WHO maternal nutrition program targets our interventional focus on vitamin or micronutrient supplementation, 1, breastfeeding, 2, and complementary feeding in first 1,000 days. Why is it so important? Because there are structural, there are physiological changes which occur in fetal. And that definitely contributes to a lot of cellular health, organ development, and tissue development. Because of undernutrition, PCM or micronutrition, macro or micro, there may be an alteration in cell numbers. Clonal selection of particular cells can be altered and gene expressions can be altered. As Dr. Reddy had mentioned, that stunting is a very great aspect in this area of public health that we really need to be careful about, because it is not only an issue for undernutrition, but it becomes a blockage in later life for healthy life. Because if you know that stunting, it impairs potential to optimum growth and development. This cellular theory definitely tells us that because of stunting, the organ size is compromised, the cellular growth is compromised, and definitely it leads to NCD at a later stage of life, even though the weight is normal, the structural, the intravisceral fat, all that grows at a larger level. And hence, I think stunting should be taken very seriously. The monitoring should be done so that we identify the potential physical development, mental and functional. All the development are happening at right stage. Second area, and this undernutrition, is the micronutrients. We know that the methylation part of micronutrient deficiency has a larger role to play in the overall fetal health and maternal health, which identifies B6, B9, and B12 impact, and a lot of research and publications have been done that a deficiency of folic acid, B12, and pyridoxine together can contribute to NCD and other areas of neurofetal development impairment. We also need to understand in undernutrition a theory or a programming process which was DOHARD, which was being promoted and researched. A DOHARD hypothesis, that is development, origin of health and diseases, states that there's a lot of environmental impact in fetal and postnatal development. We cannot ignore the environmental impact, which talks about the food, the nutrients, and the emotional well-being of the mother so that it impacts your fetal health. I also would like to highlight study done by Dr. Yagnik, which is called as PNMS. I belong to Pune. So it's a very proud moment for us because Dr. Yagnik has done a lot of research in this fetal programming and maternal health. This study talks about Indian fat, thin Indian fat. So thin fat Indian is nothing but he has shown associations of maternal diet and nutritional status. He said that there's no association of much of PCM impact, but definitely he found a lot of impact when he had a good balanced diet of green leafy vegetables, fruits, milk, so a lot of micronutrients, maternal micronutrient contribution had great impact on a good fetal health. And then he came up with a theory of thin fat Indians, where he found that when he compared an Indian newborn and a Caucasian newborn, the intravascular fat was on a very high side. Now, what is this all about we are looking at? We are looking at definitely environmental impact, food monitoring, and a very, I think, a strict adherence to a protocol or a policy which we all are looking at first 1,000 days needs to be applied, because we don't want at that level a cellular impairment of stunting, malnutrition, or whatever. The last line about overnutrition, which definitely is a topic for today, which we talk about the NCD contribution, excess calories in pregnancy, because we know that the recent 2020 guidelines said the calories only be exceed if the physical activity is on a higher side. We ignored that. We always made it that eating for two is always a pregnant lady's diet. But I think the thought process of a balanced diet with portion control needs to be applied by every nutritionist or dietitian who is practicing in this field. Because obesity, hypercaloric diet, they all impair behind the scene your glucocorticoids, your circulating insulin, your lipids, your pro-inflammatory factors, and definitely that creates a larger impact on a long-term NCD predisposition in these adults. So summarizing, what I would like to highlight is if we are looking at a portion abyan and connecting this with a maternal and a fetal nutrition, we need to look at 4 pillars of this portion abyan. And I think the first pillar is how do we have a better policy or strengthening, because public awareness is something a dietitian can contribute to this kind of an initiative or portion abyan, because we have to look at from our fraternity how I can contribute to this. Second, I think use of technology for more answerability, more efficacy, more monitoring. I think technology usage has to be adhered because India is a very vast country with a great population. The third, I think, is we need to have an intensified health and nutrition services for first 1,000 days. Very important. And I think private practitioner, clinical practitioner, hospital dietitian should start looking at a greater contribution to this level. And finally, the fourth pillar in this portion abhiyan says Jan Andolan. And I'm sure all of you agree with me. We have to move faster at a community level to apply all these strategies. And we only can make a difference, I think, as a dietitian or a nutritionist. Thank you so much. Okay for any questions or any thoughts on whatever I've spoken.
Wonderful, and how you have connected the biochemical, the hormonal, and the genetic level of with the development of newborn and the maternal nutrition, impact of maternal nutrition on the outcome of pregnancy. Thank you so much for your inputs, and that is what we have to say, that at the cellular level, what is happening is at stunting, if the organ number is not reaching to its optimum, what Dr. Reddy was saying, then if we have stunting, then that person is more likely to be shorter for all organs also, and then functional capacity of organs are also going to be reduced. Thank you so much. And can we take questions in the end? And may I call now Dr. Sushma for her inputs. On Sushma, can you just throw some light on what continuing from Dr. Geeta, that how can we have some preventive strategies in young children and the mothers, and how can we take this forward, maybe at the school level, at the government level? Can you please come up with some of your ideas on this?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dr. Nimali. And I think I would like to first extend uh, a hearty thanks to all of you and the complete team, and the chairperson, Dr. Jagmeet Madan, as well as co-chair, Dr. Nimali Singh, and as well as Dr. Shweta, to give me this kind of opportunity to be part of this vibrant team who would like to bring change to the society. And as a nutrition counselor, with the backing, with the even with the food formulations and the research in those direction, along with the diet solutions, which I am working on with my at my unit from last 14 years, I feel I can see that the bringing the change in the way which can be implementable or functional is the way forward. It has to be way forward that when we suggest somebody a diet solution or suggest a certain policies, the functionality of those solution has to be taken care of, so that we can always come back and get the feedback as to whether we are in the right direction or not. So I would like to propose, in continuation to Dr. Geeta Dharmati's inputs on the physiological and the biochemical aspects of stunting and the genesis, how we are seeing the rate of overweight and obesity being shooting, or the great surge what we are seeing in the present scenario. And on top of it, with this extra burden of COVID, I would like to propose the three N's, or the for the complete nutrition fraternity. Maybe we can think in the preventive measures with the three N's, or the three nutritional guidelines, that is the nutritional gatekeepers. As even in during the Poshan Abhiyan, also we know that we emphasize a lot on the first 1,000 days. I think that is where is the innovative strategy. We need to bring the substantial nutrition and the lifestyle interventions right from the day one of the conception. And no, we should not stop at just the first 1,000 days. We need to even take it forward to at least till the age of 5 of the child, and not only looking at the micronutrition or the undernutrition or various SAM or the MAM. We need to even think beyond, with the children having the more percentile rate more than beyond 80. So on the BM, the moment you see the scorecard where the child is having the percentile rates above 80, you need to be thinking and giving a different kind of guideline for the parents. And that's where the empowering the parents and the WCDs as the stakeholders. So empowering parents should be a continuous process, not only at the Anganwadi or level, but also at the home front. The parents has to be, we have to hold their hand in terms of making them aware about the early childhood food choices, because we find that because of the socio-economical reasons, we find that most of the time the children are overfed, and they are force fed during those early ages. And we know that scientifically, even by the Lancet studies has proven that it is by the age of the 6 or 7, the food choices, the right food choices are built up. And that's where the behavioral changes towards the right food has to be achieved with the help of the parents, and also through this the complete stakeholders from the WCDs, the grassroots level workers. That is one point. That is the nutritional gatekeepers. I said that because the gate within the home, within the womb, to the within the home, till the child walks out of the home, then the nutrition educators, the second N will be the nutrition educators. The educators, I would like to propose here in this context, as we recognize with the children with various disabilities, the rehabilitation forces to come behind to make them mainstream with the normal schooling and normal lifestyle. We need to even think about having this as a employment generation for our young nutritionists and as the nutrition educators. So bring in a field wherein you are empowering training the young students of the nutrition, as the nutrition educators and make them feel that this is where you can bring the change in the society, and they should be trained in line with the grassroots percolation, so that they can bring in the grassroots percolation and the increased community outreach right from the scientific knowledge, because they are having the knowledge or the base data. It should not be a Google or a general data. It has to be scientifically proven data, which a student from coming from the nutrition fraternity is taught right from the undergraduate level to the PG level, and further they could be taken into the making them understand on even educating the parents as well as educating the young kids on how do we understand and read food labels. So that's where the stakeholders like FSSAI with the proper food labeling, especially the nutrition labeling, and making them more effective understanding, and data collection also can be done right from the childhood age. We should not leave the data collection by the age of, say, first 1,000 days. No, we need to take it beyond the age of 5. And as Dr. Johanna also pointed out, also Dr. Reddy, that it is the data as the major resource, and we can pull in the large amount of data from through these nutrition educators who would be well trained by the various mentors at various regions in whole of our nation. Through the even IDA can really play a pivotal role there, and I'm sure under the visionary leadership of Dr. Madan as the chairperson of SIG-PHN, she would definitely will be giving, already has initiated this program, would be easy to take it forward to the meaningful end. And the third nutrition end, or the third end, will be nutrition models. So the partnership roles between the parenting and the teacher as the role models. There has been a study by, there's very less data in terms of scientifically proven data, if I want to say in terms of the children's early age. If you want to see what is the obesity or the overweight burden we see in the young kids in the Indian scenario, we find that we do have a lack of data. And by having this nutrition modeling between the parents and the teachers, we can bring in the preschool age, we can bring in the both educational institutions as well as the home front can be imbibed along with the policies, and let them be a part of this complete nutrition educator program team, wherein they can be showing themselves as the role model. How do parents should make the child understand how they can be the role model in showing what kind of the right choices in terms of snacks. How simple things, I just was going through, there was a US based study which said that a early childhood, this I'm talking about the pre-toddler, just the toddlers, preschooling age itself, they can be molded towards the right behavioral choices towards the food. So these three ends, that is nutritional gatekeepers, nutritional educators, and nutritional models, could be the way forward in seeing that the data collection as well as the nutritional fraternity as well as the young population can be guided with the mentorships with experience to take them forward in terms of achieving our goals as the special interest group for public health nutrition. Thank you, Dr. Nimali. Anything I can just...
Thank you, Sushma. We'll take the questions in the end, maybe, and so that we can have a discussion. I would now like to invite the chairperson, SIG-PHN, Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, and she is a leader in public health nutrition. And I would like to ask her, what is the price that we pay for having failed in our policies and decisions? So I think you can talk about that, Shweta, if you can just throw some light on it.
Sure. So thank you, Nimali, for the opportunity. Before I go on to it, let me just come back to the topic of the panel discussion. We are discussing here how can Poshan Abhiyan deliver on tackling overweight obesity in India. So of course, any form of malnutrition is bad, and we all have, Geeta has very nicely pointed out how these two are interconnected and so on and so forth. Sushma also sort of connected the dots of which capacity, how can we mobilize them to act against it. But in terms of actually making a policy shift or the Poshan Abhiyan currently seems to be more leveraging, more inclined towards undernutrition side of the malnutrition framework. However, because we know that overweight obesity is also very rapidly rising, we must start paying attention to that as well. And so one of our pieces which I wrote earlier actually said that if we don't start paying attention to overweight obesity, there will be a price to pay, PRICE. Again, acronyms, I think I really love them. And so they're an easy way to remember things and summarize. So that's what Nimali was asking me to talk about. So that price refers to, the first is obviously the P of the price is the policy. We have spoken about innovative policies, healthy diets, physical activity, but where is the exact policy for nutrition which brings in all these together? It's so bifurcated as of now, in some in agriculture, some in Ministry of Food Processing, some under FSSAI, some under WCD, that we an environment, like Dr. Reddy was pointing out, the arable land is going to almost finish, and then the nutrient content therefore gets affected. So how are we bringing in these together? So somewhere, whether it's Niti Aayog or there is some leadership front, or whether it's all of us, to demonstrate our power, to be able to collate this, find a holistic policy vision, incorporating overweight obesity as an integral part of the policy thinking. So that's my P. R stands for research, and of course nothing will happen without good evidence, without very high quality research. We can't use examples from other countries and just replicate and keep doing it. These things have worked in the past, they were okay as starting points or as guiding principles. But India is now at a position, is a very unique position, where it has got the demographic dividend, it's got nutrition transition happening, urbanization, and therefore we need to think of locally acceptable and locally relevant research. So R is for that. I for me stands for industry. Now, when we talk of overweight obesity, a lot of blame game or shame starts coming to the individual. I want this I to move from individual to industry. There is a fair amount of work, credible work, which has been done by stakeholders and rallists like Johanna and Dr. Reddy, which actually demonstrate that industry uses this 3D approach: deny, deflect, and deceive. So, I'm not saying all industry is bad. Of course not. They are a very important part of this food supply chain, and they must be there on board. But there are some unethical ways of excessive marketing, especially when it comes to HFSS and rising overweight obesity, that they can curtail or they can check their practices. Some industries are already doing so, and we encourage that this should be done, not by voluntary measures alone, but also by policy action. So that's my I. C stands for capacity building. Nothing of this, like Dr. Madan was saying, like all of us have been repeating, and I have been particularly very, very passionate about capacity building in public health nutrition, because I think without our solid backing and solid grounding in public health nutrition, we can't deliver and demonstrate. There are many interns which come from many of your institutes, academic institutes, to us, and a lot of time we face problems in communication, in their writing, in their understanding of research. So like all of us have been pointing out, it's very pertinent that short capsular courses or things taken up for building capacity of people to be able to deliver or demonstrate action in terms of public health nutrition or overweight obesity challenge as well. We have been very good in making mixes and recipes and things like those, but how do we actually make it scalable? That's also very important. And last, which is E, and like Geeta was also talking about Jan Andolan, and all of us have been and know that Poshan Abhiyan has this as an integral component: empowering of consumers, helping them to make informed choices, is absolutely critical to the whole link. You bring in the best knowledge, keep it there. You bring in the best research, keep it there. You bring in the best policy, keep it there. Nothing will happen if I don't feel like picking up that apple versus that samosa. So that awareness in my own self, to be able to make informed choices and teach my children. So my 7-year-old, for example, he already tells everybody about reading labels, choosing products. The first thing he does is flip it and read the labels, which I'm not trying to, but I'm telling you that you start at home for all of your, in fact, Nimali has already met with him. You know how things are with younger kids these days. They pick up things very quickly. So empowering. That's my prize, Nimali, and I hand it over back to you. But with a statement, Rome was not built in a day, but it cannot take eons also. It cannot take decades now in today's time and era. We have to think of faster, quicker methods, but at the same time with solid groundwork done, bedrock of evidence. On that note, I hand it over back to you, Nimali.
Thank you so much, Shweta. Your passion is so invigorating that we are all like full with energy that yes, we have to do something. Quickly, we can have just one or two questions because we are running already behind the time. Any questions? Any questions? I don't see anything in the chat box. Because ma'am, Jagmeet ma'am is back with us and she will be making her presidential remarks. So any of the panelists among yourself, would you like to point out something? I think Sushma, as she said about education, and Shweta was highlighting the same point that yes, we need to have that education system where we not only talk about nutrition, but we talk about life skills also and how to pick, how to make choices. I think Neena ma'am would like to ask some question. Neena ma'am, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello, Nimali. Very nice program and very interesting. I don't want to ask, but I just want to make a comment. Yeah. We need to work at school level, preschool levels. The children must focus on what the children bring for their tiffin, midday meal, or, the teachers can have a look at what they are eating so that they make the right food choices. And encourage them in group eating so that they know what the others are bringing and what is healthy. Also, the teachers can emphasize, like for the little pre-toddlers and the little ones, show a carrot or something. This is good for this. You get vitamin A, or that way it makes a big impact on their mind. And their habits also, imbibe from that age. Plus, schools should give more, focus on games, physical activities, so that the children, to prevent this childhood obesity. So that is my, comments.
If I'm allowed, Nimali.
Yeah, please.
In response to your comment, which is very relevant, please be informed that actually Ministry of Women and Child Development is mulling over this whole concept of portion monitors in schools. So we are going to have some, kind of similar format of what you're describing. There are obviously under the aegis of both WCD and FSSAI, a provision of health and wellness coordinator in schools already. There's a discussion which has already gone to a second level, but there's also now a planning stage of which is happening, which is called the portion monitors, which precisely look at this particular point without actually fat shaming or putting the blame on any one particular child per se, but in general teaching the principles of holistic nutrition and good food choices. So that's being done. Thank you.
So that's good. Thank you.
I would also like to add my own story that we are working in Poshan Abhiyan in Rajasthan, and our collectors are motivating the schools to put up a story of a nutrition, like one message of good nutrition instead of any other. So one day, 1 or 2 days in a week, they are going to put this nutrition message for the children to read on the board, like we say thought of the day. So that thought of the day is nutrition tip of the day for all the schooling children. So that has been taken up by a lot of people under Poshan Abhiyan. I think that we are moving in the right direction. And with that, can we wind up with our own president, Dr. Jagmeet Madan, as the presidential remarks? Ma'am, would you like to just wind up this whole, how as IDA can we be able to build up this Poshan Abhiyan, and how can we give strength to the program?
So I think, thank you very much. All of you have been brilliant, in conceiving it together, what we wanted to do in the launch of Public Health Nutrition Special Interest Group. And we had some brilliant speakers who, it was like a blessing to get an opportunity to hear them. They're real stalwarts in their field. And I think all of you have thrown light on this aspect. But Shweta, I think Shweta was instrumental in picking this topic for panel discussion. When I read through the report, Shweta, the last report which has come out by the Poshan Abhiyan, it really reflects more of achievement for undernutrition. it really doesn't talk much milestones achieved for overweight and obesity. So, and though in the charter, if you look at the charter of Poshan Abhiyan, it clearly indicates that the mandate is to look at undernutrition, overnutrition, and nutrient malnutrition, right? So undernutrition has been touched very well, and there are some remarkable improvements you see, in terms of the figures and demographics they put in and the efforts. And also anemia has been handled very well. In micronutrients, I think anemia has been given a lot of focus. But we have really not touched on overweight and obesity much. I feel, IDA as a body, which has so much strength in terms of the life members across India, has great, leverage to offer. And leverage is not only in terms of delivering the messages. I think, like this group or the members of this special interest group can brainstorm and come out with a charter of innovative methodologies of bringing out behavior change. In fact, I'm very happy to share that we've done, one of my recent researches has been on the, the barriers to behavior change. And through focus group discussions, what we found, and this is again in school going children, and I'm addressing Nina, that, we want these things to happen. But if you try to analyze what are the barriers which don't allow things to happen, it's not only the child. I think what the focus group discussions have, emerged with these threads, that parental involvement is very, very important. What Shweta was saying, I think as nutritionists, somehow we educate our children unknowingly, because they see our behaving and talking and, practicing things which we talk. So things just get absorbed in them. But that's not the case everywhere. So parental involvement, one of the very important influencer for behavior change. And of course, in school management readiness, and of course, the sensitization of the teachers. Because for a child, teacher is a role model, So if he sees her teacher indulging into a behavior which is not appropriate, then automatically the messages taken are different. And even the kind of options school gives as snacks or as meals, I think these are very important decisions which we make. Today, government is enforcing and trying to say that 100 meters, you can't have HFS's food. But that's true. But what I feel is, even if you enforce this, you are limiting the access, but you're still not making the behavior change, because the behavior change will come only when the empowerment happens at all these levels. So I think the first thing which we need to really, and what she said, we are looking at portion monitors, we are looking at wellness coordinators, and these are all very good moves. And, we also did an intervention with a very good tool which we developed. And you will be astonished that the creativity in the tool motivated students to follow what they were taught. So what I'm trying to say is that we can be very, very innovative. We have such good minds who can come together to prepare these innovative formats of reaching out to the important vulnerable groups and, seeing the impact. It's just not preparing the module and delivering, but also seeing the, whether you do KAP or whether you do any tool, to see the pre and post effects, So this is the kind of language which we have to talk as a scientific community, and not only talk, I think we need to document. And what Dr. Reddy said, that the more we document, the more we publish, because I see Shweta speaking about a lot of things in her blog. And, So similarly, IDA as a fraternity, the special interest group of IDA as a fraternity, and this special interest group, it's not only restricted to IDA. I think it is restricted to any member from the nutrition fraternity who is a life member or even not a life member, but still has interest in, contributing in this space. You are welcome, because we want to make it inclusive. At the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to use this strength to come out with meaningful solutions which should get documented, and those documents that should reach the higher up or the government. We can showcase all this, like today, when FSSAI today reaches us for resources, it is only because we have showcased our innovation and our strength, that what is the kind of technical knowledge we have and in what all formats we can give you. So that's where now they are reaching to us to say that, okay, give us these kind of resources. So the same thing applies, that when it comes to public health nutrition, I think we need to create those templates, not only just resources, but I think solutions to bring about what is needed in this space. So whether she's talking about the role of industry, or the role of schools, or even I think I saw at ICDS level, now they're thinking of giving smartphones to the Anganwadi workers, right? So the government is willing to use technology. So this is another area where IDA members can come together and leverage their expertise, because I know so many of our members who are so good in technology. So if we can use technology again to work in collaboration with the government bodies, and especially more important is not the top, I think the more important is the grassroots. I think we as an association need to connect with people at the grassroots level. Okay, so we should be happy working with that Anganwadi worker. We should be happy working with our local schools, with our local communities, wherever we have the reach. And like I said, we have to create success stories using local resources. That's what government needs. If we create 23 success stories from 23 chapters of IDA as a document, and give that as an evidence-based information going from this special interest group to Niti Aayog, I am sure they will be wanting to have a conversation with us, right? So, in fact, I just got a message from Dr. Mehan, from MS University Baroda. And she said that, it is high time. She herself is a part of Niti Aayog today. But she said, I feel isolated because I'm all alone there. I would like many of my colleagues to be there, we as a fraternity to be there, but if we want to be there, I think we should have this kind of, resource with us, the base with us, which is very, very robust and can be shared. And so that's what Dr. Reddy was very right in saying, that we have to prove ourselves. And I think by creation of this group and Shweta's presence here, I think all the lead people here, Shweta, Nimali, Geeta, Sushma, they are all very, very committed to the cause. And I'm sure there are so many who will join us. I think we have just commenced, Geeta. So there'll be so many, who would like to join us. And I'm sure I just read Nimali's message that there were 1,000 people who saw, who were a part of this program. So the fact that, we are trying to be inclusive, we are trying to reach out to people, but with the only objective that we can voice ourselves only if we come together, right? If we do our little things in different pockets, it will never be heard. But if we do plan things in different pockets, collate everything and share with the government, then that voice becomes a very strong voice, right? So I think we have to think big, we have to think in these lines, and come together for the nation's cause. And I feel if we will not do it, who else will do it? Right? Always ask that question. I think what Nimali said about a child, I think it was so right. If today we as a fraternity will not think about these things, then whom are we expecting that would interact with the government and give these inputs? So let's come together. Let's leverage our expertise and and really make a difference in our lifetime. Our lifetimes are limited. Okay, today we are here, tomorrow we may not be there, right? But in our lifetime, if we can make some tangible contribution from this fraternity for a national cause, I think it will be appreciated by the generations. And there's so many young students who are listening to this. I think there is so much for you to offer and to contribute in this space, so that each one of you, can do so much. And you don't have to go anywhere. You just have to look around wherever you are, right? So there is so much to contribute. So, but like when we put these dots together, it becomes such a huge, contribution nationally. So I think with these words, I again thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Nimali. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Sushma. You've been wonderful. I think we conceived the whole thing so beautifully, executed. And I'm also pleased to share why I disappeared for about half an hour was, again, an honor to the Indian Diabetic Association. I was in the inauguration of RSSDI, where our module on certified diabetic specific nutrition education was launched in the inauguration by the Minister of State in the august presence of all dignitaries from RSSDI. And it was such a proud moment that IDA coming together with RSSDI to build basic modules, advanced modules. The modules are almost ready. We are going to pilot it, and then we are again going to launch it on 10th of January on Dietetics Day with RSSDI President and Dr. Agarwal also joining. So this is also, a contribution to the people at large. So if we can build this professionally trained diabetic educators who can reach out to various the diabetics, and we team up with the endocrinologists, I think sky is the limit. We can achieve a lot. So okay, so thank you very much, and God bless. It's already 6 o'clock.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really very, very well said for everything. And I think united we stand is the key to all the nutrition fraternity. And with that, I would like to, Sushma, would you like to extend a vote of thanks, please? Quick vote of thanks, and then we'll have a national anthem.
Yes. Many thanks, Dr. Nimali, for wonderful chairing of this panel discussion. I would like to say that to start with, on this wonderful special day of Anti-Obesity Day, it is my privilege to share the vote of thanks to each and every person who has contributed to this complete SIG, public health and nutrition, right from conceptualization. I would say it has been a great vision for our chairperson, Dr. Jagmeet Madan. Without her wonderful vision and thought process, probably whatever we discussed in our NEC meetings, it would not have reached to the reality what we are seeing today, unless she would not have given the leadership and the visionary functionality to this whole thought. So my hearty congratulations, Dr. Jagmeet ma'am. And I take this opportunity once again that it has been really wonderful working in this team, and for giving the opportunity and identifying the people to be part of this whole team is really a wonderful aspect, which I feel is something which cannot be really even I can say that it's really commendable on your part, ma'am.
Thank you.
So the first thing is that, and the next part is our chairperson and the co-chair, Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, Dr. Nimali Singh, my very serene and subtle team member, Dr. Geeta, who have been a continuous support throughout this whole process, quietly working, silently, subtle, and so much to learn the way you work, the patience. It has been a great learning at my personal front also. And my hearty thanks really goes to all the team members for working together in a cohesive manner. As Dr. Madan also just said, the key is let's all join together with our various strengths to make this as a movement and mobilize our nutrition fraternity pan-India. So that is something really we have to move forward. And really, I would say from bottom of my heart, Dr. Shweta, I should say that you have been instrumental in guiding us, in supporting us, and reaching out as and when we need your support. And, from your own point of view, your own expertise, it has been wonderful working together with you in this, making this program happen today. And I'm really very grateful to the media support, the team, Mr. Hardik, Ms. Neelam, who has supported us right from the day one in making this, putting their efforts toward designing, towards reaching out. I think the community outreach, what we say, was not possible without the digitization support and the social media support we got. And my heartfelt thanks to all the NEC members, IDA Scientific Committee, and website team for supporting this launch. And finally, this event cannot be conceptualized nor is functional without the participation of 900 to 1,000 participants. It is not something we are talking in terms of some figure. It says the requirement of today's in terms of public health nutrition, and as a community, what we can take it forward in our way in this wonderful journey in reaching through the grassroots levels, how we can achieve. I think it is just mind-boggling and wonderful to have this kind of participation. And I would like to say once again, thanks from my side for making me part of this team and giving me this opportunity. And I look forward to deliver the goods the way we all have conceptualized and making it happen in real meaningful manner. Thank you. Thank you once again to each one of you.
I would like to thank you, Sushma.
Yes.
And her mother is not well and she has been so brave. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am to you for conducting the whole program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess all our blessings will reach to my mom for her fast recovery. Thank you.
Neelam, can we have the national anthem now, please?
Yes, please.
And we can start for it. We can stand for it.
Yes. Kindly stand to give respect to our national anthem.
And it is a special national anthem because of the children. We've taken the theme of children.
Yes.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता।
So nice, very nice.
Thank you, ma'am. I thought that this deserves the children to actually display their
tomorrow. Absolutely.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again.
For all your time.
Good evening, good night. Be safe. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't do this. The virtual clap. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.